Yay! This will be Tuesday, November 4th, advanced class, and we are going to be taking a look at a story called Retreived, Reformation, and a bell work called Story Mountain, which is like a stormy mountain with less rain. So we'll help you out from there. Don't forget, we do have a used shoe drive coming up for B points. If you want to bring in used shoes and donate them to kids in Africa, and they melt them down to make them into sandwiches or houses or something. Then every pair of shoes you bring in gets you 3 B points up to a maximum of 5 pairs for a total of how many points?
15.
That was scary. This is not the advanced class. And then also your book report, book choice is due by this coming Friday, so make sure you're good to go there. And then if you need a copy of the story, you can go onto the MrBrovicast.com. For the bell work, here are the 5 parts of the short story plot that you're going to have to know. You know the 7 elements, and then the plot gets broken down into these 5 parts. Now that we've sort of studied it a little bit, I can introduce these. You start off with exposition. In exposition, you can summarize it as boring stuff. So you can summarize exposition. Actually, write that out to the side. Of exposition, write out to the side of it. Boring stuff, because exposition is the boring stuff. It's at the beginning when it introduces characters, and you're like, what? This is boring. So it's all the boring stuff at the beginning. Rising action is the events in the story that lead to a turning point in the action. Out to the side, put exciting stuff, because rising action is the stuff that makes you interested. It's rising stuff. I actually had this information on there, but apparently my computer ate it when it rebooted again yesterday, so I did not realize it was not there anymore. Climax, put out crazy exciting. It's where, no, wait. OMG moment. Much better. It's the moment where you go, oh my god! And all of a sudden, in the story, like, what? He was a cat the whole time? I thought he was a dog. And so it's that, I don't know. I thought it'd be a good, oh my god moment if all of a sudden a person turned out to be a cat or something like that. And then the falling action. This is what comes after the climax and things are not nearly as exciting and you're sort of getting, let's see. OMG explain. This is where it explain. You're like, how could he have been a cat? Did you see what he was going around eating kill? And so this is where it explains the OMG moment. So the falling action is the OMG explain. And then the resolution, boring end. At the very end of the book, when they're just like talking about the fact that he had a horrible life growing up, being abused by pigs or something like that. That's why he had to hide his cat background. Come on, doesn't that sound like a fascinating story?
Yeah.
It's a crazy cat person? Yeah. And so those are the different parts that
I would read that.
Now, we have our mountain. So as we go through them, just make sure you guys have plugged in the right parts. And basically, it's just as you go through. Exposition is flat, because what's the short term for exposition?
Boring.
Yeah, so it's the flat stuff. And then all of a sudden it starts ramping up, and this is the
Exciting.
good stuff. What do we call the exciting stuff?
Interesting.
No.
Rising action.
Rising action. Because it's rising. And then you get to the top, and you're like, oh my god! And that is the
Climax.
That's where the climax comes in, and you have the toppy part. And then all of a sudden we've hit the climax, and now we're done. We're like, whoo, spent! And we're coming down, and this is the
Falling action.
rising, falling. And then at the very end, and we're like, oh, now I understand everything. We have the
Resolution.
I'm so excited. Nicely done. So those are the different parts that go into it. Exposition, rising, climax, falling, resolution. Let's see how well you can put these into practice. We're going to take a look at the story of the fisherman. And we're going to see if you can figure out what each one of these different things would be. So we're going to start off with the fisherman only fishes a certain number of times, and his final time brings in a jar. So we're finding out about the fisherman at the beginning. Which of the options would that be? Harris?
The exposition.
Yeah, that's boring. Who cares? What? Who cares about how many times he fishes and who's a fish? So that's our boring little intro beginning stuff. Then we discover the genie wants to kill the fisherman, and the poor guy must find a way to survive. Ike?
Rising action.
That is rising action. It's almost so we're excited. What? I thought it was a nice genie. He's going to kill him? That's so exciting. Oh my God. And then we get to the fisherman's plan, gets the genie back into the jar. He's not going to die, Shorty.
Climax.
Oh my God. Nice done. That's our climax that goes into it. And then we have the genie begs to be released from the jar. Don't let me die. Do the month.
Oh, falling action.
This is falling action. And so we're like, oh, that explains everything. Now he's trapped forever. And then the fisherman explains his future plans about how he's going to build a house. Well, seriously, that's part of the story. Come on. Bernie,
Resolution.
that's the resolution at the end. So that's how the story mountain would work. Yes.
Wait, why was the fisherman? You know how like the fisherman was like so poor he could
Yes.
like barely eat.
Yes.
So how could he afford to like build a new brand new house on the beach?
I think he was just trash talking.
Okay.
I mean, because the genie's trapped. He's like, "What up? What you gotta do now? Come on!" And so like he's just fronting. And like his house might be like a couple boards he puts together or something like that.
Like a sign.
Yeah, shh. Something like that. Maybe just sorry. Don't you grumpy stare at me. I'm not the one that forgot it. Then for the Lady and the Tiger, we'll take a look at once again. So we find out that the two characters love each other, and then there's a princess, and there's a gardener's son, and stuff like that. So what's it going to start off with, Chloe?
Oh, it starts off with the exposition.
Nicely done. And that's where the exposition comes in with all the boring background stuff. And then the girl is caught saying love to the gardener's son, and he's put on trial using the two doors. We're like, oh, how can I? Keely,
That's the rising.
all of a sudden, like, it's a love story, but he's going to get killed for it. Now it's exciting. Then the princess discovers what's behind each door, and she finds out what's there, and she realizes she's going to have to point to a door, and one door is going to get her man killed, and the other one's going to maybe get sent away, and we're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. Stuber.
The climax.
Nicely done. The Ermagerd. And the gardener's son walks over to the right-hand door, opens it, and we don't get to find out what's behind there, but we have the same idea. Costello.
The falling action.
And then in this story, we get robbed of the last part of it because it ends suddenly. And what part of the story do we get robbed of? Shorty.
The resolution.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen if he's eaten by a tiger, or whether he just has to sit there and be on board, so we don't get a resolution in that story. Yay! There's the application of the 5 parts that goes into it. For the boy world, we're going to run through that real quick and make sure you guys have answers that work for you, make you all happy, and then we get a chance to get to our fun story for today. And today's story is kind of fun. Oh, with today's story, by the way, the one that you picked up from my desk, don't freak out, I cut off the end of it. It's on a separate handout because I don't trust you guys. It's not going to read the end of the story and be like, oh my God, it's a cat the whole time. So I cut off the end of the story so don't freak out when you get to it. You don't get the second page till tomorrow. So just keep moving on that one. But first off, with the boy world, for the plot, Hayden, what do you have down for part 1, or the very first step of the plot?
He skips school and tries to get an internship.
Who's he?
Eric.
Works for me. See, I did. Enjoys being an intern, so something about him being an intern was there. Wigger, what'd you do for number 2?
I said Eric is a big fan of the weatherman and wants to become a weatherman like him.
Cal Kilbright. See, I did. Eric takes over weather position, so it's the same idea about him doing something weathery. Jackson, what'd you have for your number 3?
I had Eric turns 18.
Alright. So I did. Drops out of school and is a big weatherman. I think that's the same idea of him being the 18. In fact, he's like, I'm 18 today. And he gets all sassy. Kyra, what'd you have for number 4?
I had Eric gets demoted to intern again when the dude comes back.
Nice done. Eric has to go back to being a gopher, gets demoted. I think we're on the same page there. And Turner, number 5.
I said he goes back to school.
Decides, wow, look at that. Decides to stay in school. Nicely done. Questions from that part? Yeah.
For number 2,
Yeah.
I had everything exactly the same, except for number 2, I put Eric is behind on schoolwork instead of takes over wedding.
That's probably it. Oh. For the characters, who we have down as the main character on that one, Raquel?
I have Eric.
Works for me. Who'd you have your second one?
This is me.
Alright, who'd you have as your third one?
Sean.
So you used the Sean, the dude from the other storyline. I'd probably say for the most part, don't bother with Sean and what's her face girlfriend, or even English teacher dude, because English teachers aren't important either. Who'd you have your fourth one? I'd probably do the same one, because you have Eric and Mr. Matthews, because they're the two that argue with each other, and you have to cut out the storyline about love, because love has no role in anything, especially today's story. And then Thistle, number 3 and 4.
For number 3, I put Mr. Feeney, and
Okay.
for number 4, I put Pat.
Those are the 4 I came up with too. You could probably argue a few of those. I mean, the first 2 you're probably gonna have to have, but then between Mr. Feeney and Pat, you might be able to have different arguments for those, and that's fine with me. For what would work for the description of Eric Pencil?
He works at the news station.
Works for me. I put intern at the TV station. What'd you have for Mr. Matthews' pencil?
Oh, he doesn't want
I did father of Eric, but I think yours probably did more detailed, nicely done. Did you have Pat on yours?
Yeah.
What did you have for Pat?
I said that he's the one who like tells Eric that he has to like keep staying in the
Works for me. I put boss at TV station. And then did you have Mr. Feeney?
Yeah.
Well, go you. What did you have for Mr. Feeney?
He tells him that he has to write this like essay.
Works for me. I put principal. But that would work also.
That was a teacher.
I thought he was the social studies teacher.
He's
He is.
both.
He's both.
Can we just like
It's
Yeah.
oh my god! You mean TV shows don't follow logic? Yeah, this is gonna be a shocker to you. They make up stuff on TV shows. What happened was the first season, Mr. Feeney was a teacher, and then all of you are like, "We like him. Keep bringing him back." We're like, "Well, you only have a teacher for 1 year." Like, make him the principal. And so they made him a principal. And they're like, "But now we have a new kid coming through. Make him principal and the teacher." And so that's what TV shows do. They just randomly move stuff around. Good stuff. Yes, dear.
So like on the descriptions, like on the test when we do it, are the descriptions gonna be like really flexible, or are they gonna be like a characteristic, or are they gonna be like how they
On the test, you're not going to
relate
have
to
any
the
of this. The
character?
test is going to be over the story you're going to read on Thursday. This is just
I know,
practice to
but
get
are
you
we
ready
gonna
for it.
have like to describe the character?
When I'll do the character description, I have to be one that does not match anyone else. So whenever I give you a character description, it won't be super detailed. It'll be something like this, but it'll be something that should not match any other character.
Oh, so as long as you can tell that it's that character.
Right. You with me?
Yeah.
Fun stuff. For our settings, we have the when. What year does it take place?
1996.
And what time of year?
Winter.
Winter. 96, winter. For the where does it take place?
weather studio?
Weather station, or the news station. Where else?
School.
Matthew's house and
School.
Philadelphia, out of count. TV station, school, Matthew's house. You could probably also put down Philadelphia. I'm fine with that too.
Did you put Eric's house?
Yeah, that's the Matthew's house. That's his last name. Yes.
So for the win, could I also put Eric's birthday?
Yeah, that'll work too. Nice little. For the point of view, we'll start off with our voting once again. Raise your hand if you say first person, main character talking right to. Okay. Raise your hand if you say third person. We have a narrator telling the story. It is correct. And it's between limited and omniscient. I saw you guys were split on this one. So once again, if it's limited, that means there's one character that you see in every scene of the story. If it's omniscient, that means it jumps from character to character and stuff like that. So raise your hand if you say limited, there is one character that is in every scene. Raise your hand if you say omniscient, and it jumps around from. It's going to be omniscient because it's going to jump around. Even if you take out the love story scenes, there's scenes where Eric storms out of the house and it's just left with the parents. We raised him right, didn't we? No, he's a teenage boy. Oh, yeah. And so they argue back and forth after he's left, so that would be the one that takes away from it being limited. Theme! Well, if you didn't pick up on what this was trying to teach you, then I have failed my job. So what was it trying to teach you, Chloe?
Stay in school.
Nice, well done. And that was the whole idea of this one. Was I tried to pick this one because it had a big, obvious theme, stay in school. The idea that you're supposed to stay in school. Even comes out at the end and says, Mr. Beanie, you have to stay in school. This is the theme, I'm telling you right now. And so it's like coming right out and telling you. Internal conflict. Let's go with Eric Snail. And what decision does he have to make in the story?
He has to make the decision to be a weatherman or stay in school.
Nice, well done. To be a weatherman or stay, I could drop out or stay in school. I think it's the same idea, just to be the weatherman. And then let's go with Mr. Matthews as another one of the choices from there. And Vivico. And by the way, your choices don't have to match mine. If you have a different choice, that's fine, as long as yours is a choice in the story. There's multiple choices that are there. Vivico?
Let Eric stay out of school or force him to go back into school.
Works for me. I did yell at Eric, or accept his poor choice. I think it's pretty much the same idea there. Go you. External conflict. There's a big one that happens throughout the story, Elf. What's the big fight?
Eric versus his dad.
And why is that important?
Because if his dad is mad at Eric, then he will have to go back to school and he doesn't work too.
Nicely done. Eric wants to drop out and do what he is good at, Dad. And so I tried once again finding those big, obvious ones. Why I like this episode, because it kind of makes it easy for you to pick and fill in those things. It's good training for you. Questions about any of that? You had to do a second one, but I couldn't fit a second one on there. I ran out of room. Is there another good one you can come up with besides Eric versus Mr. Matthews? Kyra?
Eric versus Mr. Feeney.
Oh, how so?
Because he keeps telling him to do the social studies essay, but he doesn't do it.
Nice, well done. Yeah, that essay drove me nuts. He's like, 20,000 words. He's like, oh, 2,000? He just rips off like the first 4 pages. I'm not sure what. He's like, oh, yeah, that's a good essay. Just rip off the first 4 pages of the long one. Sure, good conclusion. It would have driven me nuts, but whatever. Special kids. Works for me. Yay! Now, we're done with that. Done with that. Let's take a look at the story about robbing banks.
Sounds fun.
No, that's what I tried to go for.
Which side is it?
You're going to start with the side that says a guard came to the. I realize this is what I tell you. A guard came to the prison shoe shop. It's got like a side that has like a black area that says "Dear Old Pal." That's the back side. So we're going to not start with that one.
One after you.
Yeah, that's the back side. So we're going to the side that says a guard came to the prison shoe shop. I guess when I just found this copy of it, and I used to use our books, and don't use our books anymore, so I had to be creative. But as we go through it, one, if you want to read, as always, absolutely fine with me. If not, then you're welcome to suffer through my melodic voice. If you want to read, you have to let me know the difference between wanting to read is you put your hand like that, and then if you have a question, you put your hand up so I can tell the difference between the two of them. I will give you a heads up on the story. O. Henry, the guy who wrote it, I love his stories. They're a ton of fun. But he had a weird hobby. His hobby was reading dictionaries. So, and he got put in jail for a while, and so while he was in jail, one of the things he did to entertain himself was read dictionaries. So, oftentimes, his word choice is not what you would normally find. Like, Mr. Brovicast, he's just throwing big words. Yeah, he read dictionaries for fun. So instead of saying the phrase, he's walking down a peaceful, empty street, he'll say, the guy is strolling down a Pacific thoroughfare. And you're like, oh what? And so Pacific means peaceful, thoroughfare means road. Once you get into the story, it becomes pretty easy to figure out what everything is, but don't freak out when you get to the big words. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Yes, dear.
Why did he get put in jail?
Embezzling from a company. He was like an accountant and took money for himself. Apparently they frown on that. Business. Elf.
If there's a word that you don't think we understand, will you tell us what it is?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, any of like, the ones, if I can pick ones out that I know that you're going to have issues with, I'll tell you. And if I miss one, like, Mr. Brogack, I don't know. I'm like, that word's the, dear. And so we'll help you out. It's not a problem. All right. Go for it, Harper.
A guard came to the prison shoe shop where Jimmy Valentine was assiduously stitching uppers and escorted him to the front office. There, the warden handed Jimmy his pardon, which had been signed that morning by the governor. Jimmy took it in a tired kind of way. He had served nearly 10 months of a 4-year sentence. He had expected to stay only about 3 months at the longest. When a man with as many friends on the outside as Jimmy Valentine had received in the stir, it is hardly worthwhile to cut his hair.
Maybe pause. Maybe read more in a moment, but we've already thrown a lot of fun words at you so far.
Yeah.
So, one, they say that he's in the stir. Can we figure out what the setting is to start with? Where is young Mr. Valentine?
Prison.
He's in prison. Mr. Brogack, they were talking about shoes. They were. Because in jail, you have jobs you have to do, and what is Jimmy Valentine's job in prison? Yeah, he's stitching. He says assiduously stitching uppers. Just means like assiduously just means with lots of concentration and work and effort and stuff like that. So he's stitching shoes together. Like the uppers would be the top part of the shoes, the bottom part of the shoes. Stab. He's just sewing those things together. How long is he supposed to be in jail?
4 years.
How long has he served?
10 months.
Nicely done. How long did he think he was going to serve?
3 months.
Now, did you catch why he thought he was only going to serve 3 months?
Friends.
Yeah, he's got friends, and so he's got connections, if you will, and so that's where he's like, what? So that's where we're starting off. So we're getting there. All right, keep going from there, Adam.
Now, Valentine, said the warden, you'll go out in the morning, brace up, and make a man of yourself. You're not a bad fellow at heart. Stop cracking safes and live straight. Me, said Jimmy in surprise. Why, I never cracked a safe in my life. Oh no, laughed the warden. Of course not. Let's see. Now, how was it you happened to get sent up on that Springfield job? Was it because you wouldn't prove an alibi for fear of compromising somebody in extremely high-toned society? Or was it simply a case of mean old jury that had it in for you? Oh no, I read that right. Mean old jury that had it in for you. It always one or the other with you innocent victims. Me, said Jimmy, still blankly virtuous. Why, Warden, I never was in Springfield in my life. Take him back, Cronin, said the warden, and fix him up with outgoing clothes. Unlock him at 7 in the morning and let him come to the bullpen. Better think over my advice, Valentine.
Thank you, Archer. Alright, so one, what's he in jail for doing? No, that's the author who's in jail for fraud.
For embezzling business.
Nice enough. Cracking safes. What does it mean to crack a safe?
Stealing.
Yeah, so he was a safe robber, basically, so he was into banks and stuff like that. Now, does he admit to his poor choices? No. He's like, what? I was never even in that place. And then when it says that he was blankly virtuous, is when you have that blinky, blinky, I'm innocent. Blinky, blinky, what? I was never there. Blinky, blinky. And so that's the warden's like, yeah, right. And so obviously he's not being believed, but he's trying to stick with it. You guys know what an alibi is?
Yeah.
Yes, I have to have alibis all the time. That's a scary thought. Hunter?
It's like, backs you up.
Yeah, if I accuse you of, like, coming into my room and stealing my stuff, like, I was never in your room. Like, I was in the lunchroom the whole time. I had my whole table. That's, whoever the people that back you up, that's your alibi. And he was like, he didn't have an alibi for fear of, like, getting people in trouble, apparently. Keep going from there, Standy.
At 7:15 on the next morning, Jimmy stood in the warden's outer office. He had on a suit of villainously fitting, ready-made clothes and a pair of the stiff, squeaky shoes that the state furnishes to its discharged compulsory guests.
Big fancy word that says discharged compulsory guests. It means prisoners that have been let go. Discharge means let go. Compulsory means forced to stay. Guest means you were with them. So it's a fancy way of saying they gave him clothes because he just got kicked out of jail.
Wait, what?
Because he got to leave jail. He's getting to leave. He got pardoned, which means where the people let you out early. And they're giving him clothes. Go ahead.
The clerk handed him a railroad ticket and the $5 bill, with which the law expected him to rehabilitate himself into good citizenship and prosperity. The warden gave him a cigar and shook hands. Valentine 9762 was chronicled on the books, pardoned by governor, and Mr. James Valentine walked out into the sunshine.
That number, 9762, you know what that's referring to?
His jail number.
Nice it up. His jail number.
Disregarding the song of the birds.
Hang on. Keely.
It says that his name is James Valentine, but at the beginning it says his name is Jimmy Valentine.
Jimmy's a nickname for James?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Joe for Joseph. Now you keep going.
Disregarding the song of the birds, the waving green trees, and the smell of the flowers, Jimmy headed straight for a restaurant. There he tasted the first sweet joys of liberty in the shape of a boiled chicken with a bottle of white wine, followed by a cigar a grade better than the one the warden had given him. From there he proceeded leisurely to the depot. He tossed
Depot. It's the train station.
He tossed a quarter into the hat of a blind man sitting by the door and boarded his train. 3 hours set him down in the little town near the state line. He went to the cafe of one Mike Dolan and shook hands with Mike, who was alone behind the bar.
We're going to pause there. The part where it says he tossed a quarter into the hat of a blind man, we're finding out information about a guy that's just been in jail and has connections into, I'm guessing, the mob world or something like that. Any idea what that's supposed to tell us about his character if he stops to toss in a quarter into the blind man's thing? Yes, dear?
He may seem like a bad person on the outside because he's like in jail and stuff, but I think he's a good person on the inside because he stopped to give the blind man money.
Yeah, it's a little hint towards the character idea. So it's the idea that he's not a complete jerk, the fact that he's got just a little bit of niceness to him.
And he could have just stolen it.
And he could have just stolen that quarter.
Or
Yes, dear?
no, the money in the hat because the
Oh,
man was blind.
He
was
could have
looking
stolen.
around.
Gotcha. Now I'm with you, but he didn't because he was giving.
And to add to that, it said that they had only given him $5 and that's like all he had, so it just shows that he had like so little, but yet he still gave someone else his money.
And the story settles down and becomes easier to understand as we get farther into it. So it's just this little what do we call this beginning part that's boring?
Exposition.
Yeah, it's just this exposition that's a little rough. Hunter,